I'm attorney Nick Alcock. I'd like to speak a little bit about Tempe Municipal Court and their policies and procedures. So if you've been arrested and you have to go to that particular court, in the COVID era, the rules have changed. So we've updated this video to give people a little bit more information about what to expect in Tempe. This is September of 2020, and so we will be updating the website and making sure that people are well aware of any changes. But as of right now, this is how Tempe is working. So Tempe is a place that is near and dear to my heart. I grew up in Tempe. I'm a Tempe High Buffalo. I went to ASU for law school and my business degree, and I'm very familiar with that court. When I first started out, that was my primary court, my office. I had a little office in Tempe. When I very first started out, I was working for another attorney, and then I moved my office to Phoenix. But I still enjoy Tempe. I think it's a great place, and it has a certain character. And I think that's also reflected in the court. I enjoy dealing with the judges and the prosecutors there. I always have. And I found that they tend to be very reasonable, and I have really developed a good practice in Tempe. It's a court I like to go to. With COVID, they're being very reasonable, and they're allowing people to appear telephonically to protect them. The number for Tempe is 480-350-8271, and that's a number that you should call before you have to go to court. Obviously, things can change. They could change their policies tomorrow, but you want to have that well in hand so that if you have to appear in court, you can appear telephonically. Now, some tricks of the trade for telephonic appearances. You want to make sure that you have a good connection, and that you're not on one bar, or that your phone is dying, and because you might be on hold for some time. And you also want to make sure that there isn't a lot of ambient noise. So do whatever you can to secure a good connection, something that's not going to drop out. Don't be driving around. Don't put yourself in a situation where there's going to be a lot of ambient noise, because judges can take that the wrong way. And when you call in the first time, that typically is a time for you to enter a plea of not guilty, and then you'll get another court date. It's okay over the phone to say that you're not guilty, even if you are, because you're just saying, Judge, I want to see the evidence against me. I want to negotiate with the prosecutor. I want to know what my case is all about. You can always change it to a guilty plea later. Tempe case could last 6 months, give or take, a little bit more, a little bit less. And from the initial appearance, there'll be a number of status conferences and pretrial conferences that will happen every 30 days, 45 days, depending on what is happening with the judge at the time. And those opportunities are those court appearances. They're just opportunities to get police reports, the paperwork in your case, and you're speaking to the prosecutor. Now, in some cases, if you're not facing jail time, like with shoplifting, you may not be assigned a public defender. So you could find yourself in a situation where you're actually talking to the prosecutor and you're negotiating with the prosecutor. Be careful in those situations, because again, those prosecutors in City Tempe, bless their souls, it's a great city and they tend to be super reasonable, but they're not necessarily on their side. Their job is to prosecute you. And so if you say something, know that it could potentially be used against you. And especially if you say something in a victim case, that, for example, you've had contact with the victim, or if you admit to prior convictions for a similar offense, those things can be used against you. And just be very careful to know that the prosecutor, while they're coming across as very amiable, that prosecutor does not necessarily have your best interest in mind. My advice is be as organized and be as emotionally professional as you can, because prosecutors, if they're dealing with somebody who's raising their voice, or they're dealing with somebody who's being somewhat unreasonable, prosecutors can kind of shut down. And I've seen prosecutors, maybe in speaking with the people who are representing themselves, I'm sitting there, I'm waiting for my case to be called, I'm watching an interaction. Sometimes I'll see a prosecutor just shut off and stop the negotiations with someone just because the conversation's taken an emotional turn. And what a shame, because maybe that case could have been dismissed, or maybe there was a diversion plea that could have been offered or something, but it was just the emotional aspect which changed the negotiations. You always have the right to speak with an attorney before you go to court. Many attorneys offer free consultations. We do as well. And take advantage of it, because you don't have much to lose, and you speak to an attorney and you have a better idea about what it is that you're facing. If you are sentenced to jail and you are facing a jail sentence, know that Tempe is being very reasonable, and they are allowing jail sentences to be continued well out into the future. And if you do have a confinement order, say in November or December or January, and that confinement order is at a time when COVID is still in the jails, you can call back that court in Tempe and you can say, look, I want to see if I can modify my confinement order and push it back. And Tempe has been very reasonable so far, and I would expect they would be in the future, so that they would enable you to buy more time. And so you do want to protect yourself. So again, to recap, that number is 480-350-8271 for Tempe. Call in advance. Make sure that the communication is wide open. Don't call the day before. Don't call at 3:50 the day before, 4:30 the day before. Give yourself room. Be organized, because if you don't appear, if you don't call in, a warrant could issue for arrest, and that would be obviously a disaster. And if you have any questions about any case in City of Tempe, it is our pleasure and honor to help people. And the consultation, like I said, is free. Our number is 602-989-5000. That's 602-989-5000. My name is Nick Alcock. I'm the owner of Alcock & Associates. And we have been helping people in Tempe for over 2 decades. And it's a great court to be in. And I wish you the very best of luck. Stay safe. And if you need anything, I'm here for you. Thanks so much.